Good evening. Welcome to the November 24th Caribou City Council meeting. First on the agenda, public input. Anybody have any thoughts they'd like to share with the council? Okay. Number 2, declaration of conflicts of interest from the City Council regarding any agenda item.
I have none.
Number 3, consider authorizing the minutes of the following meetings. November 10th, we had a council meeting and a special council meeting, and we need a clarification that Mr. McDonough was not in attendance, so we'd make that change.
Move to accept the minutes of November 10th, 2014 City Council meeting minutes as amended.
Second?
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. We also had an October 16th and an October 20th budget form.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor McDonough, second by Councilor McDougall to approve the minutes for October 16th and 20th. All those in favor? Unanimous. Consent agenda. We have an October 2014 Parks and Recreation Department report. Thank you, Mr. Marquis. That's the first. And Christmas Eve holiday, which is to close not just the city office, the whole town. I mean, all employees leave at noon or 11 or whatever they're.
Half day. Yep.
Noon? Okay.
Is Christmas or Christmas Eve? Is that not standard that they have half a day of Christmas Eve off?
It's the council grants that on a case by case
Every year.
or year by year basis. Yep.
Seconded.
Who made the motion?
I did.
Motion by Councilor McDonough, second by Councilor Murchison. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item number 5, authorization of a tax anticipation note. Manager, please.
We're asking the city council to approve the resolution on the next pages that authorize the city manager and the finance director to utilize a line of credit for a tax anticipation note, or TAN, in accordance with 30A MRSA sections 5771 and 5773. The council authorized one for fiscal year 2014, which we did not need to use. That was authorized in June. The bank's requesting that we submit the paperwork earlier this time around so that they have more time to process things on their side. We don't anticipate having to use this or expect to use this, but we are presenting it to the council just in the event that it's needed. It does continue to underscore the point that we need to build the cash reserves of the city. As the council is aware, we do delay payments to some vendors while doing our best not to pay late fees or try to ensure that we have enough cash on hand for the day-to-day operations during the months of June, July, and August. So once again, the TAN will only be used if absolutely necessary. Staff will do their best to not have to utilize it. However, because the council must authorize it, we are bringing it to the council to have it ready if needed. There's no cost to the city to have a TAN on standby, so we are asking for council approval on the resolution.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Manager, please, what number would you feel comfortable with in the reserves to avoid this in the future?
Having a cash balance of $500,000 is the lowest that I think we would be comfortable with. If we had something more like $1 million, it would be a lot easier to work with.
So our reserve balance roughly stated is what, 1.1 or 2 million?
Cash flow in June, July, and August can get down quite low.
Right, but in order to avoid that, we probably should increase it at least another $500,000.
At a minimum,
That
I
would be
say.
a comfortable place to be.
Right.
Thank you.
How low does it actually get?
We get under $100,000 on occasion.
It's not good.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Item number 6, Caribou Comprehensive Plan for 2014 to 2024. And Assistant Manager Mizuko was in charge of that, along with the planning board.
Deputy Mayor Martin and members of the City Council, you have in front of you the comprehensive plan for the City of Caribou. The plan represents over 18 months of work and community involvement in developing a vision for our community for the next decade, as well as a plan to guide the community to reaching that vision. The workload described in is not light and will require the diligent effort of the city administration, including all departments of the city, elected and appointed boards and committees, as well as the residents and businesses of our community to ensure the plan is followed. Following through on this plan will ensure our community lives up to our great potential. D.L. Moody once said that faith makes all things possible and love makes all things easy. Faith in our vision for the future and a love for our community, our whole community, is the best way to move forward implementing this plan and fulfilling our civic duty to make sure Caribou is a great place to work, play, grow in, and call home. The Planning Board has approved this comprehensive plan, and I'm submitting it to the City Council in accordance with state statute so that you may hold a public hearing on it and then act on the plan, and it can be then taken and put into action for the benefits of our citizens and the state of Maine. And I can answer any questions anyone has regarding the plan before or during the public hearing or after.
I have no question. I just want to tell you it was a good job. Very good job. The planning
Thank-
board, whatever you did, it was excellent.
It's quite a bit of
I
work.
actually took the time to read it.
I read it cover to
Yeah.
cover also, yes. It was very well done.
Very well, yeah.
So, we're having a public hearing?
We need to open a public hearing, correct?
Okay, we're going to have a public hearing on the City of Caribou Comprehensive Plan, starting at 7:06. Any comments from the public? Is there a show on at 8 o'clock that everybody wants to see?
Well,
Council?
I would add a comment there, if we're not going to get any public input, that I was able to participate in some of the visioning, and I thought it was really well attended and very well run. I thought it went a long ways to helping form at least the spirit of the comprehensive plan, and I would like to add a well done to city staff and the people that took part, planning board as well.
I passed that on to them earlier, and I would like to emulate everybody else's praise from Mr. Mizuko. He did a fine job from cradle to grave. The typos are all his. Okay.
I
went through this plan, there's no typos left.
Also, I would add that the hallmark of a good comprehensive plan isn't that it lined the bookshelf somewhere. It should be dog-eared and coffee-stained and well-used, updated in 5 years, and ideally fulfilled on our way to the next comprehensive plan and long-range visioning.
What are the wishes of the council?
We should close the public hearing first.
Come out of the public hearing.
Public hearing is closed at 7:08. Wishes of the council.
Deputy Mayor Martin, I move that we accept the comprehensive plan and forward it to Augusta for the period of 2014-2024 for the city of Caribou.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item number 7, clean up at Old Birdseye site. The gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, sir. As the council is aware, the time has passed for Mr. Nassif of Nassif Land LLC to comply with the majority of the order that the council issued back in August. Mr. Nassif has not done any of the items as outlined on that order. There are still 4 days to complete all of the environmental work. I don't anticipate that happening. Once again, here's a list of things that were to be completed and the accompanying timeline as ordered by the council. Obtain a qualified soil management plan for soil remediation by August 25th, 2014. Have a qualified engineer do an inspection on the structural soundness of Building 3, the freezer building, by August 29th, 2014. The engineer shall deliver a copy of the report directly to the city. If the engineer report finds the building not structurally safe, the building must be demolished and all debris removed from the site by October 31st, 2014. If the engineer report finds the building to be structurally okay, the building must be repaired to the specifications listed in said report, all doors and openings to the building enclosed, and the roof to be adequately maintained by October 15th, 2014. Have all the asbestos remediation taken care of by a licensed asbestos abatement contractor by September 12th, 2014. demolish buildings 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, and remove all debris from site by October 31st, 2014. Soil remediation on site to be completed by October 31st, 2014, and to complete all other work in the Phase 2 environmental review, which was completed by County Environmental and dated April 15th, 2014, to have that completed by November 28th, 2014. According to State Statute 17 MRSA Section 2853, if no appeal is filed, the municipal officers of such municipality shall cause said nuisance to be abated or removed in compliance with their order, and all expenses thereof shall be repaid to the municipality by the owner or co-owner within 30 days after demand, or a special tax may be assessed by the assessors against the land. Expenses shall include, but not by way of limitation, the cost of title searches, location reports, service or process, cost of removal of the structure, any costs incurred in securing the structure, pending its removal, and all other costs incurred by the municipality which are reasonably related to the removal of the structure. In addition to levying a special tax, the municipality may recover its expenses, including reasonable attorney's fees, by means of civil action brought against the owner. As the state statute authorizes the municipal officers, the council, to cause this nuisance to be abated, I'm asking the city council to authorize myself and the necessary city staff to cause this nuisance to be abated. If the council authorizes such action, we'll take steps in the order they appear above. We'll also need to have the ABCA, the analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, completed as per the Phase 2 environmental study. The ABCA is already underway. It does not go stale, and that will still be the governing document of cleanup at that property. Mr. Nassif has not filed an appeal per state statute. He only had 30 days from the date the order was served on him to file an appeal. So his right to appeal, the council order, has passed.
Okay, could you explain to the public that they probably saw an ad about an auction that didn't happen, so could you explain what's going on or happened there?
The bank tried to hold an auction on the property. It was adjourned to a later date and time and later on canceled. So the bank was going to foreclose, and they have since backed off on their foreclosure proceedings of that site.
Okay, and then the taxes for 2012 were paid?
The taxes for 2012 were paid. I believe that was on Friday. So he maintains ownership. The city will not foreclose on the taxes.
Okay, now, have we been paid for the fence we put up there?
No, sir.
So the taxes are paid, so we can't foreclose for another year.
Correct.
But if this person owes us money, how do we go about collecting that?
We will add it as a special tax to the 2015 taxes when they go out, and any bills incurred for cleanup or remediation up until that point will be included in that. If we don't get payment, we can always go after him through a civil action in the courts.
Okay. Now, if we were to have foreclosed, we could have applied for grants.
If the city were to own the property, have title to the property, we would have been eligible for grants through the EPA Brownfield Cleanup Program, which would have covered 80% of the cost. There'd be a 20% match required.
Well, my concern is how much money do we put in there that we're probably not going to get back? Can we apply for grants after the fact?
No, sir.
So we need to decide.
Right. By authorizing city staff to abate this nuisance, the cost of that will be substantial, $500,000, perhaps more. Some of this work will be fairly quick. The soil remediation plan, the ABCA, that type of stuff is quick and relatively cheap. We would go out to bid for the demolition of the buildings, which will be the most substantial cost, and that we would bring to the council before we proceed with that step.
But do we have to do the whole works at once, or could we spread this out?
It depends upon how we interpret the state statute. If no appeals filed, the municipal offers of such municipality shall cause said nuisance to be abated.
Councilor Murchison?
Are we negotiating with Mr. Nassif now or his legal counsel?
We have not spoken directly with Mr. Nassif since he appeared before the council back in August.
But we have spoken to his legal counsel.
We have spoken with his legal counsel, who does not give us much information. I do know was contacted by a local company that was contacted by Mr. Nassif to get a quote for the cleanup costs. So apparently he is making phone calls. But that's all I know about what his activities are.
I can't imagine even thinking about going on a limb and spending this kind of money and maybe not getting it back, not being able to get any grants, what if he declares bankruptcy? What if he just walks away and says, no, I'm not paying this? What recourse do you have to get the money back? I mean, you know that it's almost an act of Congress sometime. I can't imagine doing this. I think it's his responsibility, it's his property, and he should be made however way, but not with spending city money to do it and then not having the possibility of getting it back. Let him stay responsible for it, and if there's any other avenues or laws or something that we can use, but I certainly wouldn't be in favor of putting out any money for this, not this mess. I can't, unless you can say that you're reasonably sure that you're going to get the money back, but I don't think so.
Based upon what we've seen so far and his lack of interest in paying the bills, certainly seems like a civil action would be necessary.
But then you get judgment, and the court says, yep, you've got to pay. Mr. Nassif, you've got to pay this. What then? You think he's going to sit down and write a check?
Councilor McDonough.
Can we go to court now, where we've issued the orders for non-compliance and get a court order for him to comply with this? And
It's an option we could investigate.
this is a large burden that we're ultimately looking in the face to sit here and say, yeah, let's go for it, and not know if we're going to get reimbursed at all, let alone with just some of the incidental costs for some of these other smaller projects. It's still a cost.
Right.
He hasn't paid the $5,000 or $6,000 it was for the fence,
Correct.
which he was gonna do 2 weeks after he left in March, and he never did, but that's beside the point. I just think that, I mean, I understand the eyesore, and I know it needs to be cleaned up, but I just don't know if I want to burden the community with that cost with the advent of taking a loss completely. That's all. There are some things I would do
Right.
naturally, you know, and other than maybe bringing him to court and airing out his laundry and getting the judge to give him a court order to comply with it,
Or go to jail?
puts a little bit more meat into the maybe future action of the council going forward, that we know we're gonna get our money back, or else he can do some time for not doing what he's
Right.
supposed to do. That's just my position. I mean,
Councilor,
How much are we talking for this list? Give or take.
Budgetary estimate's gonna be $500,000, $500,000, $600,000.
And so that is not something that we could apply for a grant later. We've already determined that that's not applicable.
Right, you have to have ownership before you can get the grants.
Yeah, I guess I look at it a little bit differently. It is a lot of money to spend, but in the long term, if we can get something there that will actually help the community and clean the site up, I see that as a positive. Yeah, it costs some money, but how much further can we kick the can down the road?
so the first couple cheap steps again are what?
Qualified soil management plan for remediation and engineer inspection of the freezer building.
So, and I wouldn't mind having somebody push that freezer building somewhere, but, I mean, could we just have that thing pushed down and left on the ground? I mean, I hate to see us walk away at this point after all the work we've done, but I hate seeing us spend $500,000, but I could see us get started, and then we could research how much time we have. I mean, so, let's work backwards. He paid the taxes, so why would he do that? I mean, it doesn't make sense if
Correct.
to pay the taxes if you're not going to.
And if he's gonna pay the taxes this year, what's to say he won't pay the taxes next year with all this added cost to it?
Right, but The year after that, there's a fence on there plus anything else we spend. Then we get them. But
I would think it would be, I guess, prudent of us to take these first small steps. I would think that we look towards our legal options, as Counselor McDonough said. Coming up with $400,000 just to knock the buildings down and cleaning up, where would we find the money?
We've budgeted for that in the TIF district for 2015.
It's in the TIF district monies?
Yep. Slum and blight remediation is,
What happens if we deplete those monies?
if we spend everything in the TIF district, then we have to wait till we replenish those funds, which will be in 2016.
So all the projects are on hold.
Potentially. But that is why we earmarked $1 million for slum and blight cleanup in the downtown TIF district with this property in mind.
And I'm in favor of that too. I think we need to keep moving forward, and maybe the small steps is the way we need to do it, and get to the next step and see where we're at.
Yeah,
But
I
we
agree.
don't know anything until, we get some of the engineering reports back. I mean, there could be nothing. Who knows?
Austin, the bank stopped the foreclosure procedure.
Correct.
They give a reason for why they stopped the process.
They stopped the process.
But we don't know if he still made it right with the bank.
I do not know the current status of his.
Because if you want my opinion, as your assistant city manager, there's a local bank holding a mortgage and refusing to act on an out-of-state slumlord who owns a dangerous property in our town. I feel it would be appropriate for the council to put public pressure on that local bank to make them come good and follow through on their responsibilities to Aroostook County. I don't know the specifics of it and what happened on their end, but they're basically backing away and saying they don't want to follow through on their responsibilities. And I think that's wrong. We're caught in between a slumlord and the bank that's protecting him, and I think it'd be appropriate for the council, whether through it's a resolution or a letter, to let the bank know publicly and let the citizens know that this bank is backing up this slumlord and they won't take action because they don't want to get their hands dirty as well. And who gets screwed in the end? Taxpayers in Caribou. So the bank is Katahdin Trust. I mean, that's a public record. I think it'd be appropriate for council to address it with them in a public forum so that the public know and so that they know.
isn't it possible that the bank ends up with the property?
That was the idea with foreclosing on it, on their end. And again, he may have turned and paid the bank, I don't know that. But they're obviously refusing to step in, and why should we take it from the bank and the slumlord at the same time? They're just as bad as he is in this situation.
I honestly wonder if this isn't what he wants us to do, that there might be a plan, that he wants the city to go and clean this up for him so that,
I'm glad you brought that up, because the way it would appear is that council bluffed, and he called the bluff, and he's going to somehow get away with what he wants, because his lawyer had come in and told the city manager, correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, that he didn't think the city had the money to do this. So he may have turned and went to his client and said, well, gee, the city doesn't have the money to do this, so don't worry about it. Just do what you want and go at your own pace, and it doesn't matter. So the council's now at the point where, did he call council's bluff? I didn't think council was bluffing. I know Austin certainly didn't think council was bluffing, and the city manager is certainly not bluffing. So he's ultimately going to get what he wants one way or another. So at least in relation to the bank, I would put the pressure on the bank publicly. They should have to come and explain to the city council in a public forum why they think that it's appropriate to not follow through on their process with this individual. And I think prudence in approaching it, as the city manager suggested, is the best way. Go through the legal steps, start the process, but I would bring the public pressure to bear on the bank that is just as guilty as he is in this case.
well, to me, it's like this should be against the law. For somebody to come into a town like this and do what they've done, what he's done for the past 11 years or whatever, and then walk away from it and leave the town with a mess to clean up. And I don't think that we should be putting any more money into this until we get this resolved and know that he's going to have to pay one way or the other, whether he's got other properties to attach that we could grab or whatever. But it's too much of a risk.
That's why I recommended the legal process,
Right.
to see what position we wanted to
Right,
start in,
yeah.
not just to jump into it, that's all.
I would be in favor of starting the process. We can back out anytime we want.
The legal process, you mean? Not the cleanup, the legal process?
No, but we can get the engineering done, and, you know, that's not that a whole lot of.
Even with grants, the city's still going to bear some cost in the process.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with it, but I still think that the legal ramifications need to be brought forward now and not later.
Know what you're facing.
If we have the opportunity to take them to court and get the court order, that just puts a stronger, you know, score on our board, not his. So, I mean, I know what we're contending with, but, you know, let's not just jump into it. Let's take all the people that are responsible for this process and bring them in and involve them.
I agree. My just suggestion and my recommendation will be you invite the bank to come to a public meeting with the council and explain their actions and their choice.
Do we know if this NASIF has other properties that are worth something?
I don't believe in Maine.
They got a fruit and vegetable business in Massachusetts, okay?
Right.
That's, there was a little, they had some, they were registered, they had a couple other businesses that they were licensed for. One was the, was it biotech or biodiesel project?
Well, I kind of like the idea that let's find out if he has anything worth anything and put a lien on that. No sense putting a lien on this, it's not worth anything the way it is.
We'd have to go through the courts to get liens on anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
Check to see if,
I don't think they have anything in the state.
What about out of state?
All
Is
on
it,
paper.
can you do it out of state too?
can we put liens, yeah, we can put
Would think
liens on
so.
out-of-state property, right?
If we want to start the civil action, you know, the courts will take their time and we can play through that system.
Well, maybe
And
do
we
both,
can-
yeah.
We can be doing some of this while we're doing that.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So, but when it gets to the $500 figure, $500,000 figure, I think that's when we need to put the brakes on the dock. If we haven't come to some resolution in between time.
Yeah. So if I hear the council correctly, there's a consensus and we need a motion of some sort as to how we want to proceed.
I'll make that motion to continue with number 1 and number 2 on that list, to do the engineering, but also start the legal process.
Take the civil action to.
Yep.
Is there any benefit to doing 1 and 2 though if we're going the legal process? Like, is that just?
More information. we can-
I'll second that.
Right.
We can have discussion.
Part of the motion contacting the bank.
No.
The only benefit would be that we're getting some of this stuff done and we can apply it to his taxes we can send him the bill applying to the taxes. At least he knows we're serious and still moving forward on some aspects of this.
What do you think the cost would be to do number 1 and number 2?
Number 1 will be fairly easy, $500 perhaps. NMDC can help out with that. An engineer report or study, I would guess it to be $2,000 or less, but
So
that's
we're
just a
looking at about
ballpark.
2,500 for number 1 and number 2.
That's a ballpark, just guesses.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit higher, it could be cheaper.
Okay, but that's not bringing the bank anyway.
You don't wanna bring the bank in?
I have, that was my motion.
It's been moved and seconded to do steps 1 and 2 and start the civil process. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. I can't make a motion, but I'd like somebody to make one on the bank.
So moved.
Second.
Can I clarify what the motion is?
Yeah.
I
Bring
believe
the
it would be
bank
to invite the bank to a council meeting to explain their actions and their role in the process, and why they feel it's necessary to continue supporting somebody causing such great detriment to our community.
Starting dialogue.
Thank you.
I've got a question. I'm trying to figure out exactly what we're trying to gain from that.
I'll be very clear with you. I believe council is trying to tell
the local bank, that they're just as bad as Mr. Nassif because they're protecting him and they're defending him and they're backing away. So publicly, they should bring the bank here to speak to the council in a public forum and explain to you folks in the city of Caribou why they're taking the actions that they're taking, because their refusal to act is detrimental to our community. Clear and plain. They should be explaining that. A long time ago, somebody always told me, follow the money. Well, their interest is in their bottom line, and I understand that. That's what they have to do for their business. But why should we suffer, and why shouldn't they come here and explain to the city council as the officers of this community and explain to the public why they're taking those actions and why they won't stand up and at least be a partner in the process? They may have very valid, legitimate, legal or other reasons, but I think we should bring them here in front of the council and they should explain their actions to you, because if they had foreclosed on his property, none of this would be happening. So your hand has been forced and your course has been dictated by a bank whose only interest is their bottom line and the slumlord that they're supporting, and not what's in the best interest of the citizens of Caribou.
Got that?
All that being said, we should open that dialogue with the bank.
I guess for the record, I don't see it needing to be in a public. I mean, to me, that's just a management thing that needs to happen, but that's my opinion, so.
So what is your motion? To send them a letter or to invite them over?
To open a dialogue. I also don't believe it needs to be public. It can be done in a workshop with the council. It can be done with city manager and assistant manager.
Is everybody okay on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-2. What's next? Budget? 2015 budget.
Presented again here tonight is a budget that is what the council wanted to see, which does not increase property taxes. Staff set out with the goal to keep the budget flat, with the exception of the fixed cost increases of health insurance and previously agreed to salary increases, and increasing funding for the compensated absences. So in order to meet the council goal, we had to reduce the funding for compensated absences, as we have no control over health insurance and the salary increases previously agreed to by the council. I believe that we should come in under budget for 2014, and I would ask the council to agree to allow us to transfer the unspent funds to the compensated absences. This should offset the need for the extra funding in next year's budget. The plan from staff is to also take $400,000 of the $3.4 million we are being required to bring back in-house from the Maine State Retirement System and put that into compensated absences while investing the remainder of those funds. We're still waiting to hear back from some local banking institutions as investment options, and once we do hear back, we'll bring that to the information to the Finance Committee. As we're still yet in open enrollment period, it is possible we could see some changes in healthcare costs. That could mean we may have to find additional areas to cut in order to meet the council goal of no tax increases. And as we noted in the memo from the last meeting, the position that was added in 2009 in the police department mainly covered vacation time. In the police department, we have over 2,000 hours of vacation each year. A full-time position is 2,080 hours. So this position simply allows for coverage while an officer is on vacation without paying it all at overtime. We do have more information on what a staffing reduction in public works would mean. That is on pages 13, that's on pages 20 and 21, I believe, of the packet here. And behind that are the memos from the library director and the police chief that were presented at our last meeting. Below is the information that was originally presented to the council and part of the public, and to the public as part of the November 10th council packet. The council did not have me go through it at the meeting there. I can do that tonight if the council wishes.
Could you explain that $3.5 million we have with the Maine State Retirement System?
Maine State is requiring us to bring those funds back in-house. They are no longer going to be...
How did they get them?
It was money that the city has paid over time. I believe there was a large investment by the city into the system back in the 90s, if I understand correctly. That money has been there for a while. It simply covers the city costs for the city costs for retirement for the police department and the fire and ambulance department. Those are the two departments that are a part of the Maine State Retirement System.
Has that money been used as part of our cash flow? I mean, is that...
We don't control that money. That sits with Maine State. That's invested similar to anybody's 401k or anything like that. It's invested in the stock market, which they can do, something we can't fully do. We can't invest all of that in the market. So they've taken the investment that the city made in the 90s, and it has grown currently sits at about $3.4 million.
How much?
3.4.
That has to come back here. They're saying we gotta take it back?
That has to come back. It's some new regulations handed down by GASB.
Does that money have to be used just strictly for the police and the fire retirement? That's just for, you can't,
The council can do with that money whatever the council chooses. I would strongly urge the council to invest that money, use the interest, but don't touch
Right,
into the capital, and that's what we've kind of budgeted for in the 2015 budget.
When that was sent down there, just, because I believe in it was identified as to what it was for. It was sent down there for retirement purposes, correct?
Correct.
So, bringing that back here, even though it's increased in value, does it still retain its identity from its original investment as a retirement funding? In other words, you set up an account for whatever, and you fund it until whenever, and then if you don't do anything with it for 3 years, then you make a determination as to what you're gonna do with the funds, continue to fund it, take it away, or put it back into the general fund, so to speak. So, does it retain its original identity when you bring it back here, and we just pick away at it and then put it back with the majority of it, naturally, into a retirement-type reserve account, or do we re-identify it?
I would strongly encourage the council to invest it into a line item
As retirement?
as retirement, or if the council wants to do something else, they can certainly do something else.
Or it could be looked at as a future date, depend on consumption, and if it's
Right.
felt as though, okay, thank you.
This money coming back would also help to offset our cash flows.
I understand
But we
that, yes.
do want, we think it's best, and
I asked
like
that
I said,
question.
we don't want, we don't know what are all of our options for investments back from the local banks yet. Some of them haven't gotten back to us.
What, do, we have some ability to invest that in a market environment, but it's limited, correct?
The investment policy of the city is very tight. Our city investment policy says that we can invest it with banks that have branches located within the county.
Right.
So we'd have to entrust these funds with a bank that has a branch in the county, and they can invest that for us in accordance with state statute.
Some of the banks in the county still have other investment opportunities. Can we explore those?
We are exploring those. That's what we're waiting to hear back from the banks.
Because I know it's
from.
limited, you can't just dump it into the stock market. I know it has to be
Right.
in mutuals and
Yeah.
things of that nature, but sometimes you get a little bit more bang for your buck if you diversify it instead of putting it into one
Right.
account for 2.5% a year or something of that nature.
Right.
That's all I'm looking for, is to help it build.
Yep, well, that's certainly what we want to do as well. We want to try and capitalize on as much interest earnings as we can.
Thank
And
you.
use that to fund the annual costs of retirement going forward for the police and fire departments anyway.
And when do you anticipate that coming back?
By June 30th, if we get good investment rates or anything,
Yeah.
we can request that it be returned to us sooner. Otherwise, it'll be done before the end of the state fiscal year.
Okay, so when they have to clean their books up, okay, thank you.
I wouldn't hurry, they're doing a lot better than we're gonna get from the bank.
Well, that's why I asked if we can diversify it when it comes back here, because you can only get annuity in the bank is down here.
Right.
But there are some investment opportunities for municipal and state funds that you can go into the market, but it's limited, and you do get a better performance standard there, that's all.
So the budget, as it's put before us this evening, does not fill 3 positions within the city?
It does not fill 2 positions. The public works position is filled, the library position and the police officer position are not filled in the budget presented here tonight.
Counselor McDonough?
In my minuscule military mind and prioritization and hierarchy of importance, why are we not filling the police department position?
Based upon the cuts that the public works department has already had. They're down 2 positions from where they were over the last 2 years. And the police department has operated in the past with at 16, which would be 14 officers, up until 2008. The costs for overtime up until that point were quite high. I believe the number was about $148,000 was the overtime line for 2008. But the police department has operated at that number of employees before. If the council wishes to put the money into the police department for the officer and not the public works position, we can certainly do that. We do have memos from all 3 of the department heads explaining
I
what
read them
the,
all. I read them
what
all.
the information, how that would impact their services. I
They're all
have
just
heard-
as important as the other.
I have heard from a few people about, a few citizens about their preference. They, actually, majority want us to keep the library position open, or keep the library position filled, so.
Sorry.
I think that's okay. I think it's very important to fill that police officer's position. I really do. With today's environment, we're not just looking at the police department protecting us as citizens, but they got to protect each other as well. And I know in the library too, they're all important, and I feel, badly that we can't do all of them, and maybe we could find a way, I don't know, but I think it's very important that we fill that police officer's position. I would like to see that done.
I think they can leave some shifts open. I mean, there are towns around here that only have one person on duty at a time,
That's
and
dangerous.
they seem to survive. I mean, I'm sure the chief knows which times of year. It's not that people always take vacation in November. It might be a quiet time, but I mean, I think some shifts could be left open. That's my personal opinion.
We can't base our safety on weather or a time of year or anything like that. These guys put their lives on the line every day, and you don't know what's gonna be behind that door when you knock on it.
But
That's all I'm saying.
there are other agencies to aid. You're not alone. I mean, there's another policeman right here at the dispatch. I mean, worst comes to worst, they can, I don't know. And that's another question. We have the equivalent of 4 full-time officers doing desk work, period.
That's not true, Mr. Mark. Those full-time officers are police officers. They're also doing reports. So they're not just answering the phone, they're also running the jail. They're also assisting other agencies throughout the Roostic. When I first started, we had 16 officers. Now we have 15 officers. And when I first started, we only covered the compact zone. We had 5 full-time state police officers covering the rest of the area. We don't have that anymore. We don't have any troopers assigned to Caribou. We cover now 72 square miles. So those 4 officers that you think that are just doing desk work are not. They're traded out so another officer can come in and do his work. I think the department is an efficiently run department.
I mean, it's been brought up in the past. We have dispatching at the police, we have dispatching at fire. Why can't we do both?
We don't have dispatching of the fire.
There's nobody on the phone there?
That's answering the phone. That's not dispatching.
Oh, somebody must dispatch
The
the
state
ambulance?
requirements for what the police do is totally different what the state requirements for the ambulance service. Totally different.
Yeah, but let's say I go to Fort Fairfield. Are they a 24/7 police
They are.
department? Is Limestone?
Yes?
So there's a dispatcher there all the time?
No, they contract that out because the volume of their call is maybe a tenth of what we have a volume call. Now, we could actually dispatch for them, and we could actually handle but they could never handle what we do in one day. It's hard to believe in this day that we're not looking at best practice. Best practice with domestic violence and the amount of drugs that we have in this community is at least 2 officers, as the fire department has best practice for 3 firemen going into a fire. But to think today in our society and what we're all dealing with, especially for law enforcement, that we can do with less is asinine. Looking at every news and every night on TV, we're involved with everything. It's always cheaper for us to do prevention than it is to be reactionary. For 10 years now, my whole administration has been on prevention, not reaction. And what you're proposing is to be reactionary. I don't think it's safe for our community, and I don't think you would advocate that.
Can you tell me how much money that jail takes in?
Well, the jail takes in about $11,000, but it doesn't cost us anything. So that jail doesn't cost anything for us. Last year, if we would have had to take our prisoners to Holton, it would have been $20,000. So that's $20,000 that we would have to spend out, and another $10,000 for revenue.
Now, what are the regulations on who runs a jail?
This-
I mean, could you hire me on a night shift to watch over the jail?
No. You have to be certified to be a jail guard. Everything now is
As a
certification.
police officer?
Police officers are certified.
I don't know, but does it have to be the same certification as a police officer?
No.
I'm just looking at, if we could take that officer that's sitting there out on the street
But you're
and get somebody
but
else
you're-
in,
But you're saying he's just sitting there. He's not just sitting there.
he's trained to work with the public.
That's right.
Where we could put somebody sitting in that desk that doesn't have to be trained to work with domestic violence and drugs and whatever, just has to take care of the people in the jail, answer the phone, and dispatch.
And when you have a civilian answering the phone, you're going to have to be running to twice as many calls, because when that person calls that police officer on the phone, because that's who they're talking to, then they realize the question that they're asking is from a police officer and not a civilian. So what we're going to do is somebody's going to call to a civilian, and he's going to have to call in a police officer to answer the same call. We're going to be doing twice as much work.
I don't understand what you're talking about. But if the police officer's on duty.
I agree, Mr. Martin.
Mr. Hagan, I'm trying to be polite. I would expect the same.
Well, I agree. I don't think you understand the
Well, then
nature of our job.
Let me ask my questions. Then you can answer them, if
Okay.
you can. I mean, if we have 2 policemen out in the community, and somebody calls that there's a problem over here, the dispatcher says, go over there, there's a problem.
But a third of our calls is, I'd like to talk to a police officer. It may be just a question. So when we have civilian dispatchers, this is what happens throughout the people that have civilian dispatchers, they have to bring in a police officer to answer that call. If somebody walks in to the police department, we're going to have to bring somebody in to talk to that individual. As it stands now, that individual that they're talking to is a police officer who has the training, the expertise to answer the questions that they need be answered.
And this happens during the day, during the middle of the night?
Every day and every shift.
Well, you're there often. There's a sergeant there often.
Well, he wouldn't be. He'd be out on the road.
I'm fine. But just because it's been done that way forever, doesn't mean it's the only way that it can be done.
Actually, it used to be done the other way.
Yeah.
Correct.
And we did it the more efficient way later, and
Yeah.
actually proved it to save money. But that was a decade ago, or better.
Thank you.
Anything else on the budget? I'd like to, yes,
Are, are we making a decision tonight on the budget? Is that what we're here for? Or are we just
we can,
discussing it?
we
again?
can be.
The council can make a motion however they wish.
I guess I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the budget as presented. It sounds like, it looks like to me that the city staff has met the intentions of, I guess, the majority of the council. I think that a police officer is more important than a public works employee. And I guess that would be my motion.
Just so I'm,
That's not what the budget says.
just so I'm clear, is that a motion to accept the budget, but taking out the public works and putting back in a police officer?
That's correct. Yep.
Now, you're making a motion on the whole budget, not,
On the
not a
whole
bit,
budget.
no, no. Isn't that supposed to be in the December meeting?
We have to approve it by December 15th. We can approve it whenever the council wishes.
No, I
I
don't.
mean, the council, I mean, the staff here has done what we've asked. They've brought the budget in line to what we've asked for.
No?
Yeah, they have.
There's another 400,000 they've added to it.
The property taxes will not increase based upon the budget presented here tonight. The revenue line for property taxes levied is the exact same.
Even if we, I mean, I don't think that it's really been decided yet about the, I mean, I agree that we should have the police officer, but shouldn't we have some more talks about the highway department? And again,
But didn't we said that the budget was gonna be flat. That was the
Right.
decision of the whole council, so.
Yeah, but,
You're just adding money to,
Yes, but I think the way it's been flat-lined here is, I'm not sure that now is the right time, and I said it in an email, I thought we were gonna take a vote on it, but I'll say it now. I don't think this is the right time to do the wage and classification upgrade. I just don't. Not with everything the way it is. I think that needs to be kinda held off a little bit, and maybe look at that money too. I know of places that are not only not getting any increases at all, but had their holidays cut, had a lot of things cut, and I just,
Could we take this motion first? There's been
Okay.
a motion made and not
Okay.
seconded. Anybody gonna second it?
No.
Okay, motion dies. Go on.
okay, I think we need a little bit more time, either on the 8th when we meet again, or a workshop or something to,
We've brought
Discuss
this to
this.
the council 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We presented it to the council in October. We brought it 2 weeks ago. We're here tonight to discuss, I mean, we can flush these issues
Yeah.
out right now. I don't think there's a need for another workshop. by
okay,
any
well,
means.
whatever, you know.
We, one thing we keep saying is flat funding, and I've said it too,
Yeah.
but it's not flat funding.
No, right.
There is an increase in revenue, and we are spending it. It's keeping the tax rate flat, if you wish.
That was the mandate by council to not have a property tax increase, and that's what we've done.
I mean,
Now,
that's
if you
what's
have a
presented here.
specific item, you know, instead of doing the whole budget right now, if you have specific items you want to vote on, like I'd like to have a vote on the Aroostook Agency. I mean, I support giving them money. I'd like to have an up or down vote on whether we do that. I take it that's a down vote. Anybody else?
No, actually, I would like to see funding for the Agency Area on Aging. I'd also like to see the money that we give to the Veteran Center restored. And I'd like to see all those positions filled. Because if we don't, we're degrading our services. And we move on to next year, and where are you gonna find the money next year?
Our population
We're
has
digging a
gone
hole.
down.
We're digging a hole. If you do a modest increase this year, you won't have to do a major increase. That's what I'm trying to say. I guess I hate to see us have to readjust and do a 3 mil increase at a later date because we were afraid to do a 0.5 mil this year.
My only thing to that is to fill all those positions and do some of the other stuff is not really a modest increase.
Do we know what kind of increase it would be? Because, yeah,
It's roughly $125,000, be close to $500,000.
$500,000.
I agree with you on that. If it's either, a little bit now or in 2 years, it's gonna be jacked because we have nothing to, these positions are all important and, we do away with library, public works. It's just, the young families that are potentially moving here. Oh, well, there's no library on Saturday now. I've had people come up to me and say, I work throughout the week. I can't get to the library now because it'll be closed on Saturdays.
It could be closed on Monday and opened on Saturday.
Whatever day they choose, but it's, it's still resources. The more we diminish, the less people are gonna want to be here.
And I just like to make it a record that I don't think I'm in favor of all the positions too, but the council directed staff to flat fund, and that's exactly what he did. And that was where the services needed to be cut. So if we're giving him a different direction, we need to give him a different direction. We've talked about it. This is the third council meeting and
And two
two
public
two
budget
public
workshops.
workshops. I think we've narrowed it down. Now we just, need to smooth out the icing and put it to bed.
I just think that it wouldn't hurt to wait until December 8th. That's still got plenty of time, and then Mayor Aiken can be here. I'm sure he's got some thoughts that he'd like to present as well. And I don't see any reason why we can't wait and at least vote on it on the 8th.
You wanna see anything changed with it? What do you?
Well, again, I don't think this is a time, I don't think that this wage and classification thing is gonna go over very well with the citizens in Caribou. I really don't. Not with the economic climate, the poverty abatements that we've been looking at, several things like that. I think we need to, rethink this for now, because we're looking at this, part of it for this year, part of it for next year. Who knows what next year's gonna be? I just think that we need to step back and not rush into this. We don't have to pass this tonight.
So do you think that we need to sit down and talk this all over again?
Not
I'm just asking, that's the
necessarily.
impression I'm getting, because we can't come to, I know what I'm gonna do anyway, everybody sitting here knows, but all I'm saying is that with everybody going back and forth, where, what do they call that, logging necks or whatever, what are you gonna do tomorrow?
Come to work, do my best for the city.
All I'm saying is that Shane hit the nail on the head. We're sending these mixed messages. What do we want them to do? I've sat on this council, I don't know, 6 years now, and every year something different. And it just gets keep drug out and drug out and drug out. So do we stick with what we said to begin with? Or do we sit here and say, okay, I'm not happy because of this, and because of this, and because of this, and because of this, and the next thing you know, we're sitting in another workshop, and then comes December 8th. Well, we can wait till December 15th. We can come back and have another meeting. I'm being a little sarcastic when I say that, but I'm serious. We need to come down and say, are we gonna do something tonight, or do you wanna have another workshop and go discuss it, and come out of the workshop with a consensus to take forward to the next meeting?
I take it, Mr. McDonough, you're gonna vote no on the budget.
Yes.
Okay, could you tell us why? You haven't told us why. What specific things would you like to see changed?
I think I made those clear during the meetings, didn't I? And I stated at the same meeting as everybody else did that, I would like to see taxes held to the line. If we hold them to the line, you might see a different vote, but we're throwing things out here, throwing things out there, and we're not marching to the drum to the beat that we established back in the budget workshops.
But the budget presented tonight aligns with that beat. It
Well-
doesn't increase the taxation on a city level.
Well, but I don't know what we're gonna do. People wanna add things back into it, so.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is that the budget that you presented tonight, but that doesn't include maybe putting the officer back in.
My motion did not do that.
I heard
Right,
that.
Right.
Where are we right now? There's no motion, right?
There's no motion.
Right. We're on item number 8.
You want to make a motion, Councilor McDonough?
I'll make a motion. I move that we establish a workshop for one day next week and iron out our differences and go forward to the December 8th.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, what's the direction for management for, for the information to be developed so we can make decisions at that workshop?
I actually think management's done that. He's given us a look at everything we've asked. It's up for us to bring that all together and say, okay, here's the original budget that was proposed with a modest increase. Here's the last one that kept tax neutral at the end.
So why can't we do that tonight? Why can't we do that tonight?
Well, it sounds like we got a lot to discuss.
What- I didn't hear what you said. What-
I don't understand why we can't do that tonight. If we have all the information we have, it's 8 o'clock.
Well, I think that with the workshop, he can give us some different scenarios. What's it gonna cost to put all 3 positions in? What's it gonna cost if you take the wage and classification out? What's it gonna do?
$125,000 for the other 2 positions, $20,000 for wage and classification. What other questions can I answer for you?
Well, no, okay, that's good, you did, but how are we gonna, is that what we're gonna go with? Are we doing something else? What are we doing, you know? And like I said, I think Mayor Aiken's got some information that he'd like to. I mean, if you don't want another workshop, we can do it at the December 8th meeting as well, but I don't think we need to pass the budget tonight. But that's,
I still don't understand, if we're not being given any more new information, why do we need to rehash anything more?
I think she wants to see a budget with the 3 positions added in.
You
right?
just told her that.
Okay.
Right, so
But-
can we approve a
it-
budget with the 3 positions added in that we don't have?
$500,000.
Okay, now, are you gonna leave the wage and classification in? Are you gonna take it out? How are you gonna do this?
That's why I asked if anybody has specific proposals they wanted to make right now.
I just did.
But right now, we have a motion and a second to have another budget meeting.
Right.
All those in favor? Opposed? Fails. Okay, any specific items? I did that right? Okay. Any specific item you want to bring up?
Well, I did.
You want to make it a motion?
Well, I don't really wanna see this passed tonight, so I'm not gonna make a motion. I wanna see this waiting until
Or
December.
do you want to see it?
Okay, I'll make the motion to wait until December 8th to pass the budget. To make a decision on the budget.
Not the last motion.
No, the last motion had a workshop in the middle.
So this motion would be to table it till December 8th.
Is that what you want to do, table it?
Table and, well, we didn't take did we take a vote on the workshop?
Yes,
didn't
we did.
We did, okay. And that, yeah, okay. I would make a motion to table it until December 8th.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All those in favor? We vote on the budget December 8th.
Are we going to add anything to said budget? Are we adding it with the 3 positions in the, I mean, what's gonna be different on the budget when we come December 8th is my.
Nothing.
See, that's where I was driving at.
Well,
Okay.
I will come back and say, I think Mayor Aiken may have a few things that he would, and he could send you an email if he does. I don't know. I know he sent everybody one. And he may have another one, I don't know, but at least it'll give him a chance to do it.
The budget that was presented is what he asked for, along with 4 other council members on this council. So I'm not sure why he would have a issue with that.
This majority rule is a big problem, isn't it? I negotiated contracts with the school department for years, and the best contracts come out when nobody's happy. Well, I'm not happy, but it follows the letter of what we asked the manager to do. So if it doesn't increase tax rate, I would support it as is. Win some, you lose some.
Is the consensus of the council, from what I understood the discussion earlier, to take out the public works position and put back in the police officer position?
I didn't hear consensus.
That's not what I heard.
Is it, I think it's to add in all three positions from,
Here we go.
And that wasn't really consensus either.
That's not consensus
right,
either.
that's not consensus, but that's.
So we'll present the same budget to the council on December 8th as we presented tonight. and-
If you want to make a motion to do something, do it.
I think it's kind of like Councilor McDonough said, we're at loggerheads here when it's 3-3. And having the tiebreaker, I think, is going to be important on this budget.
Are we into other business yet?
No, not yet.
I guess I'd like to see, each one of us tell Miss Manager Blease what we want to see for that meeting, because otherwise, it's a waste of all of our time.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of know, though, he has said, so unless it's different than what we've discussed, it's
Are
going
you
to be.
clear on what direction you're headed in?
I believe the only consensus is that there's no consensus, and therefore the budget presented tonight will also be presented on the 8th.
You said that.
Well, we can send emails with,
If the council wants to send emails, I will gladly include all of the information I get from the councilors in the council packet, so all the councilors and the public and staff have the same information.
I would recommend people not do council business by email.
If information flows one way, it's okay, and we can disseminate that in the council packet. If people have ideas they want in the council packet, we can do that.
Ideas are accepted. It's when you're conducting business and going back and forth that it's not
Right.
accepted.
Well, then I would restate, I would like to see a budget that includes all three positions. I would like to restore the area agency on aging funding, as well as a modest contribution to the Veterans Cemetery.
That's your thoughts or a motion?
That's my thoughts. So I don't have to email them.
Oh, okay. Anyone else?
I'll send them to him.
Counselor Stewart,
I'll be gone.
tell the manager what you'd like to see in the budget.
I have the additional three positions added in.
You're good with the
which we know
budget as is?
125,000, so, yeah.
Okay. I can live with the budget as is. Counselor McDonough?
I'm not sure anymore.
I'm sorry, I missed Shane's comments.
I made a motion from the start, so I'm pretty good with the budget the way it is.
Because your motion was the change. Okay, just want to make sure.
Now,
think I'll be sick
The
on the-
motion that Shane made was that we would be
We'd
no
accept
tax increase at the municipal level, correct? And we were putting the police officer position
No.
in lieu of the public works.
That's correct.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I could probably support that, believe it or not. With the flag up. Okay? But I do have some other questions that I will address, okay?
Certainly,
And they're really simple.
certainly.
Could you make the budget the only item on the meeting?
Yeah, give us a Christmas holiday.
And bring a mediator in?
Let's see what I can do.
Anything else? Other business?
Yes.
Counselor
I would
McDonough?
like to see if we could get the Highway and Safety Committee to have a committee meeting maybe one day next week. In light of recent events, I just want to take a look at some of the procedures that we do, and maybe Scott and... You're out of town next week? When will you be back?
I'll be back the week after.
Sometime the week after? Tony? Chief? Austin? Okay. Let's take a proactive look at what we're doing, and
Is it a daytime meeting, evening meeting? I guess I don't remember who right offhand who's on the
You want me to
committee.
send it to
I'm
committee?
good for the daytime, you're good for the daytime, are you good for the daytime if we don't take a long time?
Yeah, depending on when we do it, yeah.
Okay,
I can make myself.
so. What what week are we in right now? So that'd be first week of December or the following week?
The week of the 8th.
The week of the 8th? Tuesday or Wednesday, okay? 9th or 10th?
9th is no good for me, but the 10th
Okay, 10th?
is a Wednesday.
Got a time that's convenient for you, because I think the rest of us are a captive audience.
I have it wide open that day.
10 o'clock? Is that,
I'm booked at 10 o'clock that day.
what, okay, well, what's convenient for you? Is it
I could do 9 or 8
11?
or 11.
11?
Yep.
Okay, and then Chief Gahagan's gonna take us all to lunch afterwards.
11?
Also, other business, I would like to extend an invitation to the Oddfellows Hall, to the Caribou Bread of Life Soup Kitchen for our Thanksgiving celebration. It's going to be tomorrow evening. There is just a ton of food. Please come and help us eat all the food. All you need is, there's no qualifications, no age limit, there's no, we're not going to make you bring your tax forms. Just bring your good appetite and come and share good fellowship with us at the soup kitchen tomorrow evening.
Could you pass
From
that to
4
Councilor Murchison and tell him to put
Tomorrow?
it in the fuel
Ken,
fund?
you said tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. From 4:30 to 5:30? From 4 to 5:30. Tomorrow evening,
It's for the fuel fund.
for the fuel fund?
Sorry it's so little, but it's all I had.
Any other business?
If I can ask a question. Typically, council, for the organizational meeting with the new council, typically council meets December 2nd, or January 2nd to organize. That is a Friday. I don't know if the council wants to meet Friday at 7 o'clock here to organize, or if we want to do it on a different date or
I
time.
thought we addressed that in the new charter. Doesn't it say the first business?
First business day of the year.
Which would be January 2nd, which is
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, the reason we brought it all up is because of that reason.
No, the reason we brought it all up was because of the terms of office not
Being
correlating with.
correlating with the
Organizational meeting.
administration meeting. Right. I can meet on the 2nd. I'm gonna be here.
My question is, do we want to do that at the regularly scheduled 7 PM on that Friday night, or do we want to move it up, do a?
5 o'clock.
It's typically quick. We can do it at 5 o'clock that day or earlier, even if the council wishes.
We did it at 5:30. We could do pizza at 5.
Is there any reason why we can't do it that next Monday?
Or we can do it the next Monday. as
Can we decide this on the 8th of December?
well. We want to keep the budget as the only council.
Two items?
Isn't January 2nd the first business day?
It is. I give up.
So we can't do it Monday.
Is my term up?
Almost.
We can bring it up at December. I wanted to mention it tonight to see if the council had any thoughts, but we can put it as an agenda item on the 8th.
I'm flexible.
Anything else? In case I'm sick on the 8th, have a Merry Christmas. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Next regular meeting is December 8th. Meeting adjourned.
Okay.